I have shared with you 2 reports. You can take reference from it for creating your project. Okay. Just a moment. Okay, guys. Fine. So today we are going to start with your SQL injection attacks, right? So I hope all of you guys are pretty much prepared with your SQL, right? So we are going to need SQL queries over here and SQL commands. Now, I am planning to show you guys manual approach as well. Okay, so I am going to show you guys both manual and automated. So generally what we do in summer training, we generally show them automated, right? But I guess it is important that you at least see once how manual is done. Okay, because in real life, automated is not going to work every time. You are going to need manual testing there. For that reason, I'm going to show you guys manual, but keep in mind while seeing manual, it is highly recommended or highly, I won't say recommended, it is necessary that you must understand SQL commands and SQL queries. Okay, because if you are not able to understand, if you are unfamiliar with your DBMS commands, be it any kind of SQL that you know, it might be MySQL, it might be Oracle, it might be PostgreSQL, doesn't matter. As long as you can understand what I am doing, that is fine. Okay, so if you guys are familiar with RDBMS or relational database, then you guys will be able to understand what is happening in the backend. Otherwise, it will go right above your head. Okay. So anyway, so let's start now. So we are going to start with one of the most crucial attacks in web application penetration testing, that is SQL injection. Okay, you can think that most of the major attacks that has happened till now, one of the, you can say, the king of all the attacks kind of thing. So you will find SQL injection in many applications even till today, but you need to know how to find them. Okay, now the things that I'm going to show you guys about SQL injection in this class, because we have so much of limited time, will only be just the tip of the iceberg, and even I guess it is going to be the tip of the iceberg. Okay, so there is a lot of things out there about SQL injections and all. Okay, so I will recommend highly, guys, that if you are planning for a cybersecurity career, then do make your own research, do perform your own research. So I'm just gonna give you a slight introduction about SQL injection, and that is what's gonna happen in this window in this summer training, right? And there is a huge ocean out there. Okay, so if you are planning to move ahead with this, so do have time to explore that ocean. Anyway, so let's start with our SQL injection. Now, first of all, let us try to understand what SQL injections are. Okay, and guys, one more thing, a word of caution. I might be performing some attacks on a real web pages, on real life web pages, if possible. Okay, so I will highly recommend that even if you do perform this kind of attacks on real web pages, and even if you are performing on the same web page which I am going to show, I don't know which I will get. Whichever I get a real web page, I'm going to show you guys. So keep in mind, do not do anything with the database. Okay, so that's a caution. Okay, so be careful with that. Okay, don't fall under any trouble. Okay, as long as you are viewing the data, that is fine. Don't manipulate the data, or don't take undue advantage of that information. Okay, so that is one word of caution. All right, fine. So let us first of all try to understand what SQL injections are, how many types of SQL injections are out there, and what can be the impact of this SQL injection, right? So let's start with the normal SQL injection basics. Just a moment. Remove this. Okay. Now, generally, SQL injection. Now, what do I mean by this SQL injection? Now, where does this SQL injection happens? Let's imagine a simple example over here. Say you have a login page. Okay, you have a login page of a web page. Okay, and at this stage I hope all of you guys know, if you are having a login page, then definitely you are going to maintain a database at the back end through which you are going to verify the user's username and password, right? I don't need to explain that at this stage, I guess. Okay, so what is going to happen, say if this is a login page, and if the username, here you will give the username, and here the user is giving the password, and here is the login button. So the moment the user clicks on this login button, what is happening, the username and password from this web page is sent to the backend data, backend backend logic. It might be running on PHP, it might be running on Node.js, right? Now what is that backend logic going to do? It is going to check with the internal database that whether this user exists in the first place, and whether the username and password provided by the user does have any existence in the database or not, right? If it does, then it will allow you to log in, right? It is going to allow you to log in. And if you do not, then it is gonna tell you that incorrect username and password, right? Getting my point, guys? Now if you look at the backend query, now obviously this is not always the query that is going to take place, but it's a simple example for trying to understand what is going to happen in background. So say example, if the username and password is going sent to the backend backend application, then what is going on over there? Definitely there must be some kind of a database query that is getting executed at some point of the complete process, right? It might be something like select star from, maybe like user details, whatever be the table name. It can be any table name. So this is the table name. Just imagine this might be the table name running in the backend, right? Just a moment, guys. Yes, sorry. All right. So there might be some kind of a query running in the backend, somewhere in the backend, wherever the processing is happening. So that query could be a SQL query, which may have something like this: say select star from user details, where user detail might be the table name, okay, where might be like username equals to something and password equals to something. Okay. Now, if this query, which is running in the backend, if this query is true, that means if this query is true, that means what? The username and password combination does exist in the database. Then the user gets access, right? That is when the user gets allowed. But what if the username and the password combination provided by the user is not correct? Then in that case, this query will become false, and as a result, the user will not be able to log in, and he will see that incorrect username password, right? Correct. Now, where does this SQL injection comes into play? Now, this is just a simple example, guys. It is not only for login bypass. I will come to SQL injection varieties, but let us try to understand this first. Say we have a place where you can give username, okay, and you have a place where you give password, okay. So, say for example, in username you have Tony Stark, you give Tony Stark, and the password is Iron Man, okay. Now, if this kind of a user does exist in my database, then definitely in here we can this is working in the front end. Okay, this is my front end part. So in the back end, what is going to happen? Back end, there will be some kind of a variable, something like something like uname equals to something dollar underscore post, okay, and they will be getting the username from username, okay, something like this. This is written in PHP though. So say for example, if I say pass equals to dollar underscore say post, this is because of post request, and we are getting some from the password. So what is happening in the backend? From the front end, it is getting these two values in these variables, right? In uname, you are giving this username, and in the pass, you are storing this in this password, right? And the backend query that is running is this one. So what is going to happen in this double brackets? This uname is going to come, right? This uname is going to come. Let me just erase this. Fine. And in the past, this dollar pass is going to come, right? This is what is going to happen, correct? And whenever this statement is true, the user gets logged in. If the password is if the statement is false, then what is going to happen? Incorrect username and password is going to come, right? Now what will happen if this is the backend query that is running? What if I try to bypass this? How can I bypass this? Somehow making this query true, right? Somehow making this query true. One of the ways, knowing the actual username and password, but sometimes you may not know, right? So what is going to happen? We can try to bypass this. How? Somehow, if I can try to make this query true, right? Now to do that, what we can do, say, instead of giving a string which is gonna get passed over here, so what is happening in this scenario? Instead of uname, you are gonna get something like Tony Stark, right? And in the password, you are gonna get Iron Man. That is what is gonna happen over here. यही हो रहा है ना. यहाँ पर अगर हम लोग टोनी स्टार की जगह पे कुछ और दे, something else means something like, if I say something, XYZ, whatever, and a single quote. Look at this very carefully. And a single quote, and then if I say or 1 equals to 1, what does this mean? What does this mean? That means what? If you compare this with this, what is going to happen? Instead of Tony Stark, we are going to get something like XYZ, then the single quote. Keep in mind, this single quote closes out this single quote. That means this becomes a statement. And after that, what I am trying to do, or 1 equals to 1. 1 equals to 1. Now, what does this mean? If you look at this statement, guys, that means what? Either the username is going to be XYZ or 1 equals to 1. What do I mean by or? Or means what? Any one of them has to be true, right? In that case, the whole statement becomes true. Now this is false obviously, but this is gonna be true always because 1 is always going to be equals to 1, right? That means what? You are making the statement true. Getting my point, guys? And after this, if I add a hyphen, which means if I comment out the rest of the parts, that means this whole thing gets commented out. That means what? This becomes my actual query, right? And this is actually true. Getting my point, guys? And if this becomes true, then even without knowing the password or the username, you should be able to log in, because the ultimate goal is to make that statement true. Getting my point, guys? समझ में आ रहा है सबको? Is it clear how this is?
Yes, sir.
Alright, so this is one example of SQL injection. Okay, it is called SQL injection login bypass. So this is how SQL injection is performed. Okay, now obviously you will never be able to see what kind of backend query is running in what kind of backend SQL query is running, because this is supposed to run at the backend, and backend code is not visible to you. So what you have to do, you have to do trial and error. Okay, so you have to try out different kind of techniques to bypass it. Okay, try to understand what kind of query might be running in the backend so that you can bypass those bypass that query, right? So it is a kind of hit and trial, but you have to do educated guesses. Okay, so this is what an SQL injection looks like. This is what an SQL injection is. So if you are able to perform this, and if there is SQL injection vulnerability in the web page, you will be able to log in without any kind of username and password, right? So we will try to see this in real life also if we get some web page with this kind of vulnerability, right? Anyway, so this is what an SQL injection looks like. Okay, so now this is just only one of the scenarios. Okay, this is the login bypass scenario of SQL injection. There are other scenarios as well. Let's see where can we get other scenarios. Okay, let's take an example. Say we have a web page whose URL looks something like this. Okay, whose URL looks something like this. Okay, now if you look at the URL, you have a parameter whose value is 1 over here, right? Now if you try to mess with the parameter, say in case of 1 you give 2, you will see that you have been transferred to a different web page now. Okay, of the same website but a different web page. If you do something like 3, you will see that you have transferred into a different web page. Okay, that means what? This ID parameters basically represents the web page there. So that is then what is happening in the backend? There must be some kind of a database query, or database is being mentioned, or database is being maintained where this ID gets related with the page, right? So there must be a database where the company must have a database where it may contain ID and the web pages. So if ID is 1, then home.php will be get called. So if ID is 2, then say contact.php is going to get called. If ID is 3, something like order.php is going to get called. So depending upon the ID, that particular page is getting called, right? So definitely some kind of a database is getting maintained over there. If a database is getting maintained over there, then there must be a backend query running to fetch the pages. It might be something like select star from any kind of table. Say I will just name it at a data where ID equals to 1. Okay, so if this is the query that is running in the backend, what if, so obviously what is this? If this becomes true, then the page gets fetched, right? So basically what is going to happen? This query is hitting directly in the database. What if I try something else? What if I give a single quote over here instead of giving, you have a number over here, right? Now along with that number, if I give a single quote over here, then what will happen? This query will get affected by something like this. And if this is the query, then what will happen? This whole query becomes a wrong query, or a syntax error is happening over there. And if this kind of error is happening, and if you are getting a crystal clear error on the web page showing that this particular query has error in this line, then that means you have a error based SQL injection there. Okay, so you can basically perform SQL injection in this kind of web pages because this ID parameter is not sanitized properly, and is basically passed directly into the web page. So if a single code is making some kind of a error in the backend database, then definitely I can do some other stuff with it. Okay, we will soon see, later on we will see how we can perform this kind of task manually. Basically from here you can dump the complete database that is running in the backend. Okay, you can do this manually, you can do this using other tools also. Okay, so I'll be showing you all of them. Okay, so one by one I will come. All right, so let me start first. Now SQL injection, you have some types of SQL injection out there. Okay, now don't worry about the types at this stage. I won't be able to go through all the types of SQL injection at this point of time. Okay, in your syllabus you only have error based SQL injection and login bypass. Okay, but there are other kind of SQL injections out there. There are majorly there are three types of SQL injection. One is called inferential SQL injection. Inferential SQL injection. Okay, inferential SQL injection. Now they generally are of two types. You have error based SQL injection and you have union based SQL injection. Okay, then you have blind SQL injection, which is very difficult to find. Blind SQL injection. In blind SQL injection there are two types as well. You have boolean based SQL injection and you have time based SQL injection. Okay, and you lastly you also have out of band SQL injection, which is much difficult to perform. Okay, so most easiest of them is this one, inferential SQL injection. You have this only in your syllabus, and not too in full detail, though you get the idea, because each one of them are, you can say, they are very vast. Then you have blind SQL injection, and then you have out of band SQL injection. Okay, now these are your three type of SQL injections out there. Now we will be first of all dealing with now from SQL injection. What can you get from SQL injection? Two types of scenario you are going to get in SQL injection. Okay, one is login bypass and the other is database dumping. Okay, dumping all the credentials of the different users and all. Okay, leaking the databases. That is what that is what the situation you might get. Okay, so there are only two situations that you may face in SQL injection. One is your login bypass and the other is database dumping. We will be looking at both of them. Okay, one by one. Now first of all we will be looking at login bypass techniques in SQL injection. Now to perform this login bypass, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna write a very simple web page over here. I'm gonna create a very simple web page over here, so as we can see where this attack is gonna hit. Okay, so that you guys can understand what is happening in the background. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create a simple web page with PHP and the front end, and we are gonna link it up with the MariaDB database, and we will try to perform SQL injection there. Okay, don't worry about the code, guys. That is not important. The main thing is to understand what is happening. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start up XAMPP over here, and let's start Apache. I'm gonna need MySQL as well, so I'm gonna start both of them. And before moving forward, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create a simple database over here. So I'm gonna open up CMD, and I'm gonna log in using in MySQL. So here is my MariaDB database. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger so that you guys can see this. Yeah, better. So show databases. I hope everybody is familiar with SQL queries. Fine. So I'm gonna create a database over here real quick. So I'm gonna create database, say users. I'm gonna create a database called users. Create database. Users. Okay, I'm going to create a table over here. So create table user details, and in the details we are just going to give two things there. I will give username and I will give password. Okay, I'm going to make it as simple as possible, trying to make it as simple as possible. I'm going to make it, say, username, which is going to be varchar50. Okay, and I'm going to use password, which is going to be varchar50 as well. All right, so we have created a database where we have a table. So if I say user details, okay, so we have username and we have password of Barker50, right? So now I'm gonna give some input over here. So insert into user details values. I'm gonna put here something like say Tony Stark, and I'm gonna put the password as Iron Man 2022. All right, so it's a pretty simple one, and I make it as simple as possible. Tony Stark Iron Man 2022 is going to be the password. So if I do something like select star from user details, and here we can see that Tony Stark and the password is Iron Man 2022. Okay, so here are some of the users. So I'm gonna add some other users as well. Let's say I'm gonna add something like Peter Parker. I'm gonna make this something like Spidey 2022, and we are gonna add another user over here, okay, Bruce Banner. Okay, I'm gonna give the password as Smash 2022. Okay, so let's try to look at the database over here. So we have 3 users and we do have 3 passwords over here, right? So my database is ready, right? So next what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a front end and I'm going to create a back end, which is going to create a communication with the back end database, right? And we are going to create a simple login page out there. Okay, so be with me, guys. So let's see how we can do that. Don't worry about the code. So let's do this. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up Notepad, and I'm going to open a folder as workspace. The folder is going to be XAMPP htdocs. I'm going to create a folder over here. Okay, so I'm going to name this as SQLI, SQL injection. And this SQL injection, I'm going to create a new file over here. So I'm going to cross this for now. No, new. I will save this and name this something like, you can give any name to this one. I will name this something like whatever, say index.php. I'm going to give it like that only, index.php. So yeah, so in this page, in this file, we are going to create an index.php file, and I'm going to write some PHP code over here. Okay, and we are going to see how we can do stuffs. All right, so let's create this page now real quick. So I'm going to go ahead and write some PHP code over here. Code is unimportant, guys, so don't worry about the code. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to just say host name. Don't worry, I will explain all of this later on. What I am doing over here, I'm going to keep it localhost. I will put the username to be something like root to communicate with the database. $password is empty. I don't have any password at the moment. And the DB name, the database name is going to be users in my case, and then we are going to create the connection for the database. So mysqli underscore connect, and I'm going to do something like host name. So $host name comma $username $password, and finally we have db name, and this is going to get connected with the database running in the backend. So if exclamation connect, that means if proper connection is not happening with the database, then I'm just going to give die, and I'm going to just show them an error, say unable to connect, something like this, unable to connect. Oh, unable to connect. Okay, and if we get some kind of a data, I'm going to use a post request here. So I'm going to just give post. We can use get request, whatever you wish we can use. So uname equals to, I'm going to get the post data from here. So post, I'm gonna get the data from something like username itself. So username. Keep in mind this username and this username is different. This is the username that we are getting from the front end. Okay. So username, and then we have $pass equals to. Okay. Should I give pass or should I not? I don't know. Let's see. Let's see what happens. Sometimes this pass can work as a keyword there. So I'm gonna keep it password here. And yeah, right, for SQL injection, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just simply write SQL, and here we are going to write the SQL query that is going to happen in the backend. So something like select star from uh, users, I guess, users. Yeah, I think that is the database name. Just a moment. I think it is user details, right? User details, I guess. Yeah, user details. User details. User details. So select star from user details where username, okay, username is going to be equals to dollar uname, okay, and okay, let me just keep it cap so that it can be highlighted, and the password equals to $pass. All right. So here is my backend query that is going to run, okay, through which we can verify whether the user actually exists or not, and if we are properly logged in into the web page or not, right? So this is my backend query that is going to run over here. Okay. Next, what I'm going to do, I'm going to check whether this query is returning anything true. So I'm going to just say result equals to MySQLi query, MySQLi query, yeah, MySQLi query. We are going to pass it on the connection, and the query that we are going to pass is SQL, whatever the query that we have written just above SQL. So I'm going to pass this in the result variable, right? And if the number of rows returned by this result is true, that means if it is positive number, if the number of rows returned by this is positive number, that means we do have some existence of this database. So I'm going to just say MySQLi underscore num underscore rows, and if it is equivalent to the result, that means we do have some rows that are getting returned from this query. We can say, we can make this equals to 1 also. So if I do something like equals to 1, okay, then we can basically write welcome echo welcome verified user. So I'm going to just echo that if it is there, else I'm going to just print out echo incorrect username and password. I'm gonna keep this all in one place, guys. So don't worry, I'm not gonna focus on the design part. I'm just gonna show you guys what the logic is gonna happen. I'm not designing anything. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, anything that else that I need to do? Let me just check once. Okay, select start from user tutorial users, details, connection, SQL. Yeah, I guess that should be all. Yeah, that should be all. Now I need to create the web page. Okay, I'm just gonna create it just below here itself. So HTML. Okay, we don't add any auto completion here. HTML. I'm sorry, I'm working in Notepad because I don't have VS Code at the moment. So I'm gonna name this as, say, title is going to be, say, login portal. Okay, and I'm not gonna go into all those beautifying things. I'm gonna leave it as it is. I'm gonna directly go to the body part. Okay, and we are gonna keep this inside head tag. Almost forgot. Okay, so head, and here we have the body, and inside body we are gonna give whatever we want. We can basically write a form over here. That is what I'm gonna do. I'm going to create a form real quick. So this is going to be form, and the action is going to be blank because it is going to get submitted over here itself, and the method is going to be post. And I'm going to give auto completion to be off, so that I am not getting disturbed by random username and password that I have used before. So form. Okay. Next is I'm going to create an input area. So I'm going to just say input, and then the type is going to be say text. Okay, text, and the name is going to be username. Guys, this name is what basically you capture over here. Okay, this name is what you basically capture over here. So username, and then I'm going to give a placeholder. I'm going to give like username, right? And that should do it. I'm going to give a br tag here, and I'm going to say another thing like input. Type is going to be text, not text, password. Yep, name is going to be password, and the placeholder is going to be password. Okay, another br tag, and finally we have the button to submit. Input type is going to be submit, name is going to be submit. Okay, and the value is going to be something like login. Yeah, that should do it. So I'm going to give another br tag over here, okay, for line change and all. Yeah, so that should do it, guys. Let me save this and let's check it out. So okay, so all right, so let's try this one out. If I go to Firefox, let's go to localhost and SQLI. Yeah, so there it is, guys. So we have the username and password over here. So if I give a username password which already exists in the database, Ironman 2022, we can see welcome verified user, right? We can see welcome verified user. Now if I give a wrong username password, say Joker, and if I give here Batman, which is a wrong username password, if I try to log in, you can see that incorrect username and password, right? So I do not have the access to view the complete things, or I do not have access to the web page. Getting my point, guys? So it's a simple login application using PHP, and in the back end this kind of query is running, right? And this is the front end. Now obviously the backend database and the backend codes are gonna get hidden from you in real life situation. You are gonna get something like this, right? You are gonna get something like this. You are gonna get something like this, right? And whenever you try out different things, say admin, it's not gonna work. If you say admin, it is not gonna work. If you click on login, you can see incorrect username and password, right? Now only 3 people can log in. Like if I look at the backend database, these 3 people can log in. Now what I am planning to do, I am planning to bypass this login without using the credentials of these 3 users. Okay, now the way to do it, now since we already have our backend query over here, let me explain it from here, and then I will move to in real life situations. All right, now if you look at the payload over here, this is my SQL query that is running right over here, right? Now what I can do, the username is coming over here. That means what, if I give a single quote, let's try it out. If I try out something like this, say one and a single quote, okay, and if I do something like hyphen, let's try this one out. If I click on login, we can see that we get an error, right? Getting my point, guys? इससे पहले क्या हो रहा था, हम लोग उल्टा पुल्टा नाम दे रहे थे, है ना? इससे पहले हम लोग जोकर बैटमैन लिख रहे थे, whatever कुछ भी लिख रहे थे, it was showing me incorrect username and password, right? But the moment I tried to inject a SQL query, okay, something gibberish, if I click on login, we can see that we are getting some kind of an error from the backend. Okay, and trust me, guys, this happens in real life web page. You get an error like this, and you can easily determine what kind of SQL database is running in the backend. From here, if you do not know what kind of SQL injection is, what kind of SQL database is running in the backend, we can clearly understand that there is MySQL running in the backend. Getting my point, guys? Getting my point? Not only that, we can also get an idea of the internal file structure. We also get an idea of the internal file structure where it is getting hosted in the server. Getting my point, guys? How these things are working? Now, why this kind of error is coming up? ये error क्यों आया? अगर तुम ध्यान से देखोगे यहाँ पर, let me just create a new one. The query that we have written over here is looks like this, right? It looks like this. Now, what is happening? Instead of $uname, what you are doing something like one and a single quote and then a hyphen. What does that mean? That means that this part of the code gets commented out, right? And this becomes the query. Okay, this becomes the query. Now this one does not exist in my database, right? Now if you look at the query, you can see expects parameter 1 to be MySQL results bool. Okay, so you are getting something else. It should be true or false, right? You are getting a number. That is why you are getting an error over here. Getting my point, guys? यहाँ तक समझ में आ रहा है सबको? Everyone, कि कैसे ये हो रहा है? Guys, am I audible?
Yes sir, clear.
Fine. So अब यहाँ पे एक चीज देखो. So अगर मैं यहाँ पे ऐसा कोई कोड दे रहा हूँ, then that is gonna happen. So let's try out something else, something like say XYZ and a single quote. So I'm giving a single quote or 1 equals to 1. So I am making this true. If I do this for both of them, let's test it out. If I click on login, मुझे भी यही लग रहा था कि यही होने वाला है. मेरा ऑलरेडी यहाँ पे पैच मरा हुआ था पहले. यहाँ पे पहले से मेरा पैच मरा हुआ था, तो आई थिंक इट इज नॉट गोना वर्क. लेट्स सी. जोकर सिंगल कोड मेरे को इसी करता. Don't worry, I will show you in other labs if this is not going to work. So if I try out 1 equals to 1 and then a hash, if this doesn't work, don't worry guys, we will see other examples, but you get the idea where this is going to hit. Yeah, it is not going to work, I guess. It is not going to work. So let me just try it others one more time. एक और बार ट्राई करके देख लेते हैं. अगर नहीं होता है then I will move ahead. It's not gonna work, I guess. हाँ, ये काम नहीं करेगा.
सर कमेंट आउट नहीं करना है उसका पीछे वाला चीज को?
नहीं, मैं बता रहा हूँ यहाँ पे काम इसलिए नहीं कर रहा है बिकॉज यहाँ पे मेरा ये पैच डाला हुआ है. ठीक है, इट इज नॉट गोना वर्क. हाँ, ये काम नहीं करेगा क्योंकि आई हैव ऑलरेडी क्रिएटेड अ पैच फॉर दिस वन व्हिच आई हैव अप्लाइड ओवर हियर. सो टेस्टिंग करने के लिए मैंने यहाँ पे अप्लाई करके रखा था, तो अभी ये काम नहीं करेगा. SQL injection is not going to work here, but you get the idea that yes, you do have SQL injection over here. लेकिन यहाँ पे देखो SQL injection कहाँ से मालूम चल रहा है? By just creating something like this. If we are getting some kind of an error over here, try out different parameters. अलग अलग चीजें तुमको ट्राई करके देखना पड़ेगा कि कहाँ पे तुमको एरर थ्रो कर रहा है. जैसे यहाँ पे एरर थ्रो कर रहा है, यहाँ से एटलीस्ट मेरे को ये मालूम चल रहा है कि यहाँ पे बैकएंड में मेरा SQLi चल रहा है, मतलब MySQL चल रहा है, राइट? Now you can have other things like if I say test or something like that, or 1 equals to 1. If I put a hash there, hash is also responsible for commenting things out. So let's try this one out. Error तो नहीं दे रहा है, but I think it is not gonna work. No, it's not gonna work, guys. मेरा यहाँ पे पैच है तो इसलिए काम नहीं करेगा, तो it's not gonna work. Anyway, so यहाँ पे मेरा पैच है इसलिए मेरा काम नहीं कर रहा है, but you get the idea. So what is gonna happen in the back end? अगर मेरे पास ये query रहेगा, अगर मेरे पास ये query है, then what is gonna happen? So instead of uname, if I give something like this, say test, and I stop it with a single quote. So here is the query. Obviously there is no username by the name test. So उसके लिए हम लोग यहाँ पे क्या कर रहे हैं? और 1 equals to 1 कर रहे हैं. ठीक है, और 1 equals to 1 कर रहे हैं बिकॉज और का मतलब क्या है? या तो ये सही होगा या फिर ये सही होगा, है ना? डेफिनेटली ये सही नहीं है बिकॉज टेस्ट नाम का कोई यूजर नेम नहीं है. लेकिन दिस इज ऑलवेज गोइंग टू बी ट्रू बिकॉज 1 इज ऑलवेज गोइंग टू बी इक्वल्स टू 1. यू कैन पुट हियर व्हाटएवर यू वांट. यू कैन पुट हियर x इज इक्वल्स टू x और व्हाटएवर. दे आर ऑलवेज गोइंग टू बी ट्रू, राइट? अब क्योंकि ये ट्रू है तो ये जो पूरा स्टेटमेंट है, ये पूरा स्टेटमेंट मेरा ट्रू हो जाएगा प्रोवाइडेड इफ आई कमेंट दिस पार्ट आउट. सो व्हाट आई डिड, यू कैन एक्चुअली गिव hyphen or you can give something like hyphen plus. That also sometimes works. You can give hash, that also works. You can give hash, that also works. All right, इट डिपेंड्स ऑन द डेटाबेस, किस टाइप का डेटाबेस है उसके ऊपर वैरी करता है कि क्या देना है लास्ट में. ओके, so once you do that, this part gets commented out, this part gets commented out, and as a result you come down with this kind of a query. Okay, now obviously this will result in true. The moment this result in true, you get welcome verified user, है ना? So this is what the scenario of SQL injection login bypass looks like.
सर वहाँ पे
हाँ बोलो, हेलो बोलो.
सर वहाँ पे 1 = 1 होगा ना सर?
कहाँ पे?
1 equal to
हाँ 1 = 1 होगा ना? नहीं जब लॉगिन पेज में
सर x equals to डबल इक्वल टू देने से काम नहीं होगा.
डबल इक्वल्स टू क्यों दोगे? व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ इक्वल टू एंड डबल इक्वल टू?
वो तो असाइन करेगा ना?
कौन असाइन करेगा?
नहीं उसका वैल्यू पर्टिकुलर वैल्यू को 1 = 1 करने से फिर तो इक्वल होगा ना वहाँ पे.
उन्होंने पाइथन नहीं है तो.
हे भगवान.
Sir, normally in coding languages like Python and C++, we use no A equal to B, then only it will work like
ओ
that.
भैया वो क्या है? वो कंपैरिजन ऑपरेटर है. लुक एट दिस. ए तुम लोग कोडिंग फिर से करो. क्या यार तुम लोग, ये देखो. इक्वल्स टू व्हाट दिस इज? इट इज कंपैरिजन ऑपरेटर. कंपैरिजन ऑपरेटर कंपैरिजन करने के लिए है. ठीक है.
Okay, sir, got it.
अब यहाँ पे देखो, से फॉर एग्जांपल देख लो, क्लियर कर लो इस चीज को. से इफ आई से a = 7, व्हाट डू आई मीन बाय दैट? आई मीन दैट a के अंदर में 7 है. गेटिंग इट? अब मैं चेक कर रहा हूँ. इफ a = 7, that is I am checking whether a is 7 or not.
Okay.
Getting my point, guys? We are checking it. This is not checking. If I write somewhere a equals to a, am I checking whether a equals to a?
No, we are
असाइनिंग.
अरे भाई असाइन क्या करोगे? ये तो यूनिवर्सल ट्रूथ है.
अच्छा.
Yes, sir.
It is not even assigning. If I write somewhere 1 = 1, what does it mean? Are you assigning 1 to 1?
No. 1 is equals to.
Getting my point?
Yes, sir.
तुम चाहो तो यहाँ पे सिर्फ 1 लिख सकते हो, because that 1 also represents truth. True. Getting
Yes,
my
sir.
point? You can also write something like h = h. H = h is always going to be true. Getting my point? Because this value and both of them are same. You are not comparing. You are not assigning. You are telling a true. You can basically write something like this also.
True.
तुमको true करने से मतलब है.
हाँ sir.
Yes.
Getting my point? But not 0 = 0. Okay, because इसका रिजल्ट क्या आएगा? इसका रिजल्ट 0 आएगा. ठीक है. You will get false ultimately. Getting my point, guys?
Okay.
It is not. Comparison operator अलग चीज है. Assignment operator अलग चीज है. Whenever you are typing 1 = 1, you are not assigning anything. Right? You cannot assign 1 with 2 1. कभी प्रोग्रामिंग में देखा ऐसा हुआ है? प्रोग्रामिंग में हम लोग क्या करते हैं? We write a variable over here and then we assign something. जैसे यहाँ पे 9 is assigned to a, but we can never write that a value is assigned. नहीं होता है. Getting my point? So yeah, this is different. This is assignment operator. This is not your क्या कहते हैं comparison operator. This is simply mathematically equal to. Okay, 1 = 1. It is going to be true always. Getting my point, guys? Clear है?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Otherwise, look at this database query. तो फिर यहाँ पे यूजर नेम equals to होना चाहिए था, है ना? If I compare this with the programming languages, getting my point? This is a SQL structured query language. It is different. Getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Clear? हाँ बोल, की बोल चीज.
স্যার আপনি বললেন না কি x = x ওখানে লিখলে ওটা ট্রু হবে? তাহলে স্যার আপনি তো ইউজার নেমটা আগে ওই যে লেখা সিলেক্টের আগে যেটা ছিল না পিএইচপি তে, ওটা ইউজার নেমটা তো $u নেমে তো স্টোর অলরেডি আছে, যেখানে লিখেছেন না $u নেম. হ্যাঁ, এখানে তো চেঞ্জ করছি না, তাহলে ওটা কি করে ট্রু দেখাচ্ছে?
কোথায় চেঞ্জ করছি না?
আপনি এই সিলেক্ট স্টারে ইউ নেমের জায়গায় $u নেমের জায়গায় ওখানে x = x
এই
লিখবেন.
$u নেমটা কোথা থেকে আসছে?
এখানে যে স্টোরটা করেছি ওইখান থেকে না, যে
এই
ইউজার
স্টোরে
নেমটা
ওয়েট এই স্টোরে ভ্যালুটা কোথা থেকে আসছে?
আপনি যে ডেটাবেসটা ক্রিয়েট করেছেন ওখান থেকে.
আহা হোয়াট ইজ দিস? আমি ওই জন্য বলেছিলাম পিএইচপি পড়তে. হোয়াট ইজ দিস? This is not coming from the database, guys. This is coming from the front end.
User input.
User input.
আচ্ছা ইউজার ইনপুট এটা হলো স্যার এক্স ইকুয়ালস টু এক্স যখন নিচ্ছেন তাহলে তো এখানেও তো ডলার ইউ নেমের জায়গায় এক্স ইকুয়ালস টু এক্স নিতে হবে, কারণ ইউজার নেমটা তো তাহলে ওখানেই স্টোর করছি না।
না, ভুল করছিস, ভালো করে দেখ এই জায়গাটা। What is the front end? If you look at the front end over here, कहाँ गया यार? अच्छा, Firefox में। Try to understand this. Wait. See, this is my application. Okay? আমার ব্যাক এন্ডে কি ডেটাবেস আছে I don't know. Right? Now whatever I type here, say আমি অ্যাডমিন, আর এখানে যদি আমি অ্যাডমিন লিখি তাহলে কি হবে বল, কিভাবে কাজ করছে এটা? Try to understand this. বল কিভাবে কাজ করছে? If I click on login, what will happen?
এরর দেখাবে।
What will happen? মানে ব্যাক এন্ডে কি করে এররটা আসছে? Obviously I am going to get this error, right? I am going to get this error.
হ্যাঁ, ইনকারেক্ট।
How?
কারণ ডেটাবেসে আমি ওই নামে কিছু স্টোর করিনি তাই।
সেটা মানছি, কিন্তু ব্যাক এন্ডে সেটা চেক করছি কি করে? ব্যাক এন্ডে কি করে চেক করছে? ট্রাই কর। Don't worry, you have to understand this. Don't worry. বল কি যেটা মনে আসছে। This is for all guys. It's good that she asked this question. কি মনে হচ্ছে এটা আমি চেক করছি কি করে যে ব্যাক এন্ডে এটা আমার ডেটা মানে ব্যাক এন্ডে আমার এই ইউজারটা আছে কিনা? হ্যাঁ, আমি চেকিং। ট্রাই কর একটু। কি মনে হচ্ছে? মানে আমার কোয়েশ্চেনটা বুঝতে পেরেছিস তো কি বলছি?
হ্যাঁ স্যার।
আচ্ছা, চাপ নিবি না, তুই নিজের মতন করে বল, কোনো ব্যাপার না। কি মনে হচ্ছে যেটা কেন হচ্ছে, মানে কি করে হচ্ছে? কারণ this front end is not directly communicating with the database, তাই না? আদারওয়াইজ ওয়েব পেজে যাবতীয় ডাটাবেস তোর সিস্টেমেই রাখতে হতো। মানে আমাকে যদি ফেসবুকে লগ ইন করতো তাহলে ফেসবুকের পুরো ডাটাবেস আমাকে আমার সিস্টেমে রাখতে হতো যদি ডাইরেক্ট কমিউনিকেট হতো।
আচ্ছা স্যার,
ডাইরেক্ট
যখন
কমিউনিকেট
এটা দেখছি তখন
হ্যাঁ,
ডেটাবেসের সাথে কোনো রিলেশনই নেই তো?
কোনটা রিলেশনশিপ নেই বল?
এখানে এখন বললেন নাকি সিলেক্ট স্টার, এখানটা কি করে অ্যাডমিনটা হচ্ছে?
না, আমি অ্যাডমিন দিয়েছি, আমি লগ ইনে ক্লিক করব, আমি জানি এখানে ইনকারেক্ট ইউজার নেম পাসওয়ার্ড দেবে, তাই তো? কারণ কি ডেটাবেসে আমার অ্যাডমিন বলে কোনো ইউজার নেই, কারেক্ট? সিম্পল লজিক। আমার কোয়েশ্চেনটা হচ্ছে এইটা আমার এই অ্যাপ্লিকেশন চেক করছে যে আদৌ অ্যাডমিন বলে কোনো ইউজার আছে কিনা।
ওটাই বলছি স্যার, এখানে ডেটাবেস থেকে কিছু কানেকশন থাকছে না।
কোথায় কানেকশন থাকছে না? মানে আমার অ্যাপ্লিকেশনের সাথে?
হ্যাঁ।
তাহলে চেক কি করে করছে?
তাহলে তো ডেটাবেস থেকে পেয়ে যাবে যে ডেটাবেসে দেখলো কি এই দুটো আছে কিনা, পাইনি তাহলে
সেই একই
ইনকারেক্ট
কথা বলছিস। তাহলে এই তো বলি ডেটাবেসের সাথে কোনো কানেকশন নেই, তাহলে ডেটাবেস থেকে কি করে দেখবে?
আমি ওটা আপনাকে জিজ্ঞেস করছি যে ডেটাবেসের সাথে কানেকশন আছে কিনা।
হ্যাঁ, ডেফিনেটলি আছে, আমি সেটাই জিজ্ঞেস করছি যে কি করে কানেকশনটা আসছে। আমি সেটাই জিজ্ঞেস করছি কোথায় গিয়ে এই জিনিসটা হিট করছে, আমি সেটা চাইছি। কোথায় গিয়ে এই দুটো জিনিস কোথায় গিয়ে হিট করছে? এটা খুব ক্রুশিয়াল এই জায়গাটা বোঝা, তাহলে তুই পুরো স্কিল ইনজেকশনটা বুঝতে পারবি। ইট ইজ ফর অল অফ ইউ গাইস, ইট ইজ ভেরি ক্রুশিয়াল টু আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ড দিস পার্ট, দিস ইজ দ্য মোস্ট ইম্পর্টেন্ট পার্ট। এই দেখ, দেখে নে, এই দেখ, এই যে এখানে যে আমি অ্যাডমিন লিখেছি, this admin that I have written over here, okay, this admin that I have written over here, what is happening? This is basically this input tag, তাই তো? Isn't it? This is basically this input tag, okay? Whatever I am typing over there, once I click on this login button, because you have the submit, you have a form tag over here, right? And what does the form tag do? It submits the data to the backend, right? The moment you click on this submit, this is the username, right? It gets stored as the username, and this is the password which gets stored as the password, and it gets submitted where? It gets submitted using the post method to this page only. তার মানে কি এখানে যে পিএইচপি কোডটা আমার রান করছে, এখানে এই যে পোস্ট মেথড থেকে আমি ইউজার নেমটা তুলছি, This is nothing but the input that the user is giving, that you are storing inside $uname. বুঝা যাচ্ছে? বুঝতে পারছিস এই জায়গাটা?
হ্যাঁ স্যার।
মানে form tag ইউজ করেছিস তো এর আগে? You know about form tag?
হ্যাঁ।
Okay, fine. So whatever user input you are giving, that is getting stored over here, not from the database. This is not from the database. This is from the user input that you are storing. Okay, you are storing the password, whatever the user has given input over here. Okay, তারপরে কি হচ্ছে? After that, what is happening? You are running a database query to check whether the given input, whether the given username and password by the user is correct or not by running this query. বোঝা গেল? যদি এখানে admin থাকে তাহলে তো this query is not going to return me anything, right? It is going to throw me an error, তাই তো? যে এটা error দেবে, that means what? In $SQL variable you are going to store nothing. If you are not going to store nothing, if you are not going to store anything in $SQL, then this query will become false. And if this thing become false, you get this result, incorrect username and password. বোঝা গেছে? Is it clear? Okay, so if I give something like this, where username is test, obviously there is no username called test, right? But after that, if I do something like or 1 equals to 1, then what is happening in the backend? In the backend, something this is gonna happen. So instead of $username, I will give here test, and I will close the quote over here, and then I will say or 1 equals to 1, and the rest of the code will become commented out. Rest of the code will become commented out. If this becomes commented out, look at this query now. এই কোয়েরিটা কোনো না কোনো ভাবে it is going to be true, because obviously this is false কারণ কি কোনো username test নেই, but 1 equals to 1 is always going to be true. So $SQL is always going to be true, and if $SQL is going to be true, then this query will return 1, and as a result you will see welcome verified user. Got it? বোঝা গেছে? Is it clear? Clear for everyone, guys? Where SQL injection is hitting, login bypass where it is hitting? Clear তো সবার? কারোর কোনো ডাউট থাকলে জিজ্ঞেস করে নে, কোথাও বুঝতে অসুবিধা হলে বলে
স্যার
দে।
ডেটাবেসটা যদি না ক্রিয়েট করি তাহলে ওখানে লগইন পাসওয়ার্ডে যদি আমি কিছু দিই তাহলে ওগুলো রান করবে, মানে লগইন দেখাবে?
কি করে লগইন দেখাবে? আমার তো ডেটাবেসই নেই, চেক করবে কার সাথে?
আচ্ছা,
You must have a database.
এই মেথডটা যদি কাজ না করে তোমার মতো প্যাচ লাগানো থাকলে সাইটটাতে, তাহলে নেক্সট মেথড কি করব?
আমি যেটা বললাম অনেক কিছু আছে, ইট ইজ জাস্ট অ্যান ইন্ট্রো, অত দেখানো সত্যি বলছি সময় পাবো না।
ঠিক আছে,
there are definitely ways that you can do, okay, but unfortunately I won't be able to show all of these things. তার কারণ হচ্ছে যে তার জন্য ডেটাবেসে যথেষ্ট পরিমাণে একটু নলেজ লাগবে, আর তোর কি বলে অনেক কিছু কোয়েরিজ লাগে, এরকম সিম্পল কোয়েরি দিয়ে হবে না, PLSQL কিছুটা লাগে।
আচ্ছা, যদি মেথডটা যদি পোস্ট না হয় গেট হতে, তাহলে আমরা উপরে ইউআরএল এর সেম মেথড
Yes,
ইউজ করতে পারি?
absolutely, very good point. Yes, definitely you can in the URL.
ওকে, ফাইন।
All right, বোঝা যাচ্ছে guys? Is it clear? Is it clear how you can perform login bypass, SQL injection, right? Fine. So this is your logic behind SQL injection, login bypass. Okay, now let us try to see some real examples. So I'm gonna exit from here. Okay. All right. Let's try to perform some SQL injection login bypass in a real web page if we can find some. So let's try some real web pages. I'm gonna go to google.com and try to look for any web pages that belongs to Pakistan and is nowhere related with our country. So let's try. I'm gonna do some Google hacking, that is GHDB. Like I'm gonna do some advanced search in Google. Okay. So if you guys are interested in learning what advanced searches are, you can look at this one. This is called GHDB, Google Hacking Database. Okay, so in Google only this is possible. in Google you can perform some advanced searches. Okay, that is what I'm going to do over here. You can see if you try to perform this kind of searches using in title, in text, you will get some specific results from the Google. Okay, say for example, if you are looking for some webcams that are available on the internet, so you can try them out. So if I just try for webcam, you can see if I use this particular query to search for any webcam in Google, then I will be able to list down some of the webcams out there which are publicly available for some reason. So if I do something like this, we can see we do have some webcams available. We can see public IP addresses. We may get to see some publicly accessible webcams. Now keep in mind, these publicly accessible webcams might not be that much public, okay, because sometimes whenever you are trying to install a webcam, or whenever you are trying to install a CCTV in your house or anywhere, you must have the ability to use it from outside any network, right? So that means you need to have a public IP address. Now the way service provider provides us a public IP address is by using dynamic DNS, DDNS, right? And those DDNS, if becomes public, can be accessed by anyone, provided there is no username or password login area. So this particular company, Webcam XP, does not have such functionality. So anyone installing their webcams might become a victim to this kind of attacks. It is not an attack though. It is basically, you can see this is real-time webcam. Okay, you can see this is real-time webcam, and I guess we can see this. Here is live view চলছে, এটা কোথায় জানি না, বাইরে কোনো country হবে. Okay, but as you can see, it's a CCTV and it's real time. It is happening right now, guys. Let's check this one. This is also real time happening right now. Do we have anything else here? No, we already have only one. So it is, as you can see, the date over here 23/7/2022, and it is 9:41. I think it's Germany, maybe, I don't know. As you can see here, you have username password area, so you cannot view the cam over there, but sometimes you do. Only one source is there. Okay, चलो किसी का घर दिख रहा है यहाँ पर. Okay. It's 12:41 a.m. It's night time, guys, I guess. So it's I think it is USA side, I guess. USA maybe, most probably. Hey, somebody is also sitting over there watching his phone, I guess.
Sir, is he aware of that his webcam is being visible by anyone?
Of course not. All right, so you get the idea. Anyway, so this kind of, okay, this is a fun thing. Okay, I leave it to you guys. Okay, तुम लोग जो चाहो कर सकते हो इसके साथ, whatever. So I'm gonna close this one out. You get some idea about this one. So that is the same thing that I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna search for insight. Okay, I'm gonna use in URL, and I'm gonna search for something like this: php?id equals to 1, and inside I am gonna use .pk. So I'm gonna use some Pakistani website to find anywhere where I can get some SQL injection out there, guys. So let's see if we can get something. So again, nothing from here. Okay, leave it. So insight, I'll just say .pk, and I will just keep it .pk. See, National Library, Pakistan. Okay. So okay, let's see if this is vulnerable to SQL injection or not, whether we can bypass the login area. So let's try this one out. So if I give something like one and then a single quote. Oh, do you notice this, guys? They have bypass. Okay, they have not bypass, they have some restriction. You cannot use special characters. Okay, so you cannot use single quote. Okay, double quote can be used. All right, so let's, okay, no space. space. Fine, we can bypass this easily. We can do one thing. We will go ahead and start our bob suit over here, and we are. I think most probably this is a front end mechanism that is happening over there. Nothing back end. Since it is not back end, we can easily bypass this using bob suit. Okay. So if I submit something over here, say admin. Okay, so you can see your password is incorrect. Please retry. And this is the query that we had sent. It's a get query. Is it actually a get query? I don't think so. मुझे नहीं लगता ये इतना आसान रहेगा. ये get query में नहीं जा रहा होगा. I don't think so. So let me just do one thing. Let me start on the interception. You see, this is called gut feeling. ठीक है, ये with experience आएगा. So if I click on login, yes, it is going in get. Let's see if we get something else. It's not. Okay, that's weird. That is weird. Okay, so ठीक है. तो get query है तो get query क्या ही कर सकते हैं. So I will send this to repeater and send this, and here we have it. We are familiar with bob suit, right, guys? We have already seen bob suit before. I've shown you guys bob suit, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So your password and username is incorrect. What if I give a single code over here? Okay, so your password and username has suspicious characters. Okay, I think they have some kind of they might have some kind of restriction out there. So let's see if we can make something out. Okay, suspicious characters. Okay, fine. What if I give you something like this? Okay, username password is incorrect. Okay, what if I give you double single quotes? Suspicious. Yes. So look at the spelling, guys. Okay, anyway. So later. What if I give something like maybe some kind of a bracket and then a single quote and then a hyphen. Okay, it's still saying suspicious. What if I give something a percentage? Is incorrect. Okay, and a hyphen. Incorrect. Okay, what if I do something like hyphen plus? Suspicious character. Okay, suspicious character. What if I do something like or something like x equals to x, and I URL encode this whole thing, and then if I send this, okay, I think they do have some kind of a they must have some kind of a restriction. हाँ, शायद restriction होगा भाई. नेशनल है, नेशनल लाइब्रेरी है, हो ही सकता है. ठीक है, अब देखो यहाँ पे बैठ करके ये टेस्टिंग करना थोड़ा मुश्किल है to guess what the login username and password might be. Sometimes you may have to do it manually. So for that you need to have good knowledge in SQL, and it is gonna take time, guys. It is not gonna get time, guys. मतलब जब तुम करने बैठोगे, it is gonna take huge amount of time. हम लोग का अभी भी लगता है, कभी-कभी तो पूरा दिन निकल जाता है मैनुअली करने में. ठीक है, to find out one simple login bypass manually. ठीक है. Now there is one thing through which you can make this automated. That is if you perform brute force over here, guys. ठीक है, brute force करेंगे, लेकिन क्या करेंगे, पेलोड हम लोग क्या यूज करेंगे, we are gonna use different kind of SQL injection payloads instead of doing these things manually. तो यहाँ पे हम लोग एक चीज कर सकते हैं, मैं डायरेक्टली इसमें दिखा रहा हूँ तुम लोग को. अच्छा, इंटरसेप्शन, हाय भगवान, इंटरसेप्शन ऑन था इसलिए प्रॉब्लम हो रहा था क्या? देखते हैं एक बार. नहीं ठीक है, जाने दो, लीव इट. अच्छा देखो, तो यहाँ पे ब्रूट फोर्स हम लोग कैसे करेंगे. जो भी क्वेरी मेरे को चाहिए होगा, से इफ आई वांट टू ब्रूट फोर्स दिस यूजर नेम एंड पासवर्ड ओवर हियर, सो यूजर नेम इज गोइंग इन q पैरामीटर and password is going in w parameter, guys, right? So if I send this to repeater, sorry repeater में तो already send कर चुके हैं. If I send this to intruder, so intruder मैंने पहले बताया नहीं है intruder क्या है. Intruder क्या help करता है तुम लोगों को to perform brute force attack. Now what is this brute force attack? It is going to try out different combinations of usernames and password, right? So उसके लिए हम लोग क्या करेंगे, यहाँ पे देखो कुछ कुछ जगह पे यहाँ पे डॉलर वाला साइन आया है and they are highlighted, right? They are highlighted. These highlighted part represent where the brute force is gonna get performed. Getting my point? अच्छा एक सेकंड guys, हाँ एक सेकंड. Yes. So we can perform brute force over here. This highlighted areas are where we can perform brute force, but we are not interested in all these areas, right? We are only interested in the username and password. So I'm going to clear out all these highlights. We can just click on this clear, and this is going to clear all the highlights over here. And I'm going to mark only the username and add this, and I'm going to mark the password, and I'm going to add that symbols there. Okay, so in that way we can specify that these are the two areas where I'm going to perform brute force, right? Now here you can find attack types. Now here you have sniper, battering ram, pitchfork, and cluster bomb, right? So from here we are going to choose cluster bomb because okay, let me just tell you what these are. Sniper is for if you wanna perform brute force attack only one single area in a single area, then you are gonna use sniper. Okay, if you are going to use if you are trying to perform brute force on multiple area and those multiple area have same values, that means the username password is admin, username password is something like abcd1234 abcd1234. So same username password, same values. If you have same values, then you can use battering ram over there. Okay, then you have pitchfork. What will happen in pitchfork? It is going to perform brute force one by one. Okay, it is not going to use any kind of a randomization or any kind of a permutation combination. Cluster bomb, what is going to do? It is going to perform permutation combination of different usernames and password. Okay, so I'm going to use cluster bomb over here, and then we'll go to payloads. Basically how you can automate this stuff. And here you will find two payloads. Okay, one payload is for the username and the other one is for the password, right? And this is where you can add whatever you want to add and the payload that it is going to try out. All right, now we are just going to type here something like we are going to look for SQL injection login bypass payloads. You're going to find it in GitHub easily. So you can just search for SQL injection. Injection login payloads. Okay, and you will find it in the first link itself. If you just go down, like extremely down, you will find here we have it. So SQL injection auth bypass payload. We can go ahead and copy this one out. Okay, and we can paste that over here. We can choose the second one. We can paste the same stuff over here so that all the combinations are tried out. We can see total number of requests are more than 5,000. So we can start the attack over here now. Now keep in mind when you are starting the attack here, since this is Bobsuit community version, right, it is gonna go very slow. Okay, if it is a professional version, then it is gonna be really fast. Okay, अगर तुम प्रोफेशनल वर्जन यूज करोगे तो ये फास्ट रहेगा. कम्युनिटी वर्जन में इट इज गोइंग टू बी वेरी स्लो. ब्रूट फोर्स इज गोइंग टू बी वेरी स्लो. ओके, तो जहाँ तक मेरे को लग रहा है कि लाइक आई डोंट नो, शायद they don't have skill injection issue. Otherwise we might have got some kind of an error somewhere. Let's see what happens. So let it run for some time and we will look at it back later on. Okay, let it just run. Okay, we will look at it later on. Okay, now let's move to the next part of SQL injection, that is where you are going to attack the URL. Okay, where you are going to attack the URL. So the other one scenario we have already seen, that is the login bypass. The other scenario is where we can dump the databases, where we can dump the data, the complete data, right? Now the way that can be performed, for that first of all I'm going to show you using a lab, then we will try to perform that on a real life web page. Okay, now to do that, let's download a simple lab. It is called from SQLi to shell. Okay, so you'll find it in the first link only, Pentester lab, जहाँ से वो web for pentesters डाउनलोड किए थे वहीं से है. बेसिकली सेम थिंग इज देयर. फ्रॉम SQL injection to shell, यहाँ से we will go to files and we are going to download this file, 169 MB only. So I'm going to download it and we are going to host it on our VMware. So give it some time to download. In the meantime, let me check. I don't think anything is gonna come up here. No. यहाँ तक कुछ ना कुछ मिल जाता. अभी तक नहीं आया है, इसका मतलब शायद नहीं होगा. I'm going to discard this. We will look at it later on. Don't worry. Something more should be there. Anyway, we will look at it later on. It's going to take huge amount of time at this point of time. So इसको मैं अभी रन नहीं कर रहा हूँ क्योंकि टाइम भी कम है हम लोग के पास, इसलिए next time we will start it first and then we will see. Okay, so okay, that is fine. So download हो गया है क्या? Let's check. Download हो रहा है. So here we have the ISO file. I'm gonna put this somewhere else. Maybe like OS. I'm gonna put this over here. And same like for Pentester, we are gonna boot it directly. Live boot we are gonna do. So I'm gonna create a virtual machine. Linux 64-bit is fine. We are gonna name this. Okay, I'm gonna store this over here. Okay, I'll just leave it here only. I'm gonna name this from SQLi to shell. 20 gigs is enough, but you can actually give 10 gigs, doesn't matter. RAM 512 दे दो, ठीक है, 256 दे दो, it will work. We'll put this to bridged. इसको हम लोग इस ISO की तरफ मार्क कर देते हैं. We'll put this to inside this ref from SQLi to shell. I'm going to close this, finish. Or on this virtual machine. I'm going to live boot this. Okay, if config and okay, IP address is not set yet. Okay, wait for some more time. Yeah, 1.18. Let's go to 192.168. 1.18. Okay. So this is what the lab looks like. Okay. Say if I go to home, if I go to test, you can see I was talking about a URL like this. Okay. So ID equals to 1. If I do something like ID equals to 2, I go to some other web page, right? If I do ID equals to 3, I go to some other web page, provided it has that particular web page for that. If I do ID equals to 2, you can see we are basically traveling through the IDs itself. So that means what? In the backend, there must be some kind of a database that is getting maintained where the web pages are linked with the IDs, right? Now, if I try to, create an error, janbujh ke, and if I am able to see this kind of an error that is you have an SQL syntax error near this and that, from here I can easily determine that it is going to run MySQL server at the backend. You can see the database name is there from the error. We can easily find out that, right? First thing that. Second thing, since we are basically are able to create an error in the backend database, then definitely there is going to be SQL injection there, right? Now the way to exploit this SQL injection can be done manually and also can be done by using a tool called SQL map. Okay, now SQL map comes pre-installed in your Kali Linux and Parrot OS, but you can also run SQL map in your Windows as well. So किसी भी कहीं से भी तुम लोग इसको रन कर सकते हो, काली से भी रन कर सकते हो, कमांड सेम रहेंगे, ठीक है? So मैं यहाँ पे क्या करूँगा? I'm gonna use Windows only over here. I'm not gonna start Kali. So Kali में भी सेम रहेगा, कोई चेंजेस नहीं रहेगा. तो उसके लिए हम लोग सबसे पहले SQL map we are going to download it. Now Kali में it comes pre-installed. You don't have to install. So SQL map, just click on the first link. If you are doing in Windows, I'm going to download the zip file. Now to run this on Windows, you are going to need Python. So I'm going to extract this and इसको यहाँ पे नहीं रखेंगे, इसको रखेंगे यहाँ पर डॉक्यूमेंट्स के अंदर में, एंड आई एम गोना रीनेम दिस, टू SQL map. ओके, सो हियर इज द SQL map फाइल, एंड यहाँ पे हम लोग इसको CMD में खोल लेते हैं. So dir, here are all the directories. Okay, so I'm gonna just to simply do we have requirements.txt, anything like that? We do have requirements.txt, no. So we are just gonna do python SQL map.py -h. So this is how SQL map looks like basically. Okay, so अब हम लोग यहाँ पे क्या करेंगे, we are gonna use SQL map now. अब देखो, तो यहाँ पे मैं SQL map को यूज करना चाहता हूँ. I'm just gonna copy this one out, and I'm just gonna simply say python SQL map -u to give the URL. I'm gonna paste the URL over here. Okay, I'm gonna paste the URL over here. Then after that, I'm gonna give the command -dbs for database. Okay, and you can just keep it like that and then hit enter just to see what happens. Python, oh sorry, SQL map.py. And you can clearly see that testing for SQL database, it looks like the backend is running MySQL. Do you want to skip test payload for other databases? You already know that it is basically MySQL, and you can also see that heuristic test shows that ID might be injectable. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna say no over here because we already know that this is MySQL. No need to test for other databases. Now, do you want to include all tests for MySQL, level 1, risk 1, values? Now, it depends basically. अगर तुमको कोई result नहीं मिल रहा है, then next time you run that. Otherwise, you keep it no. You can see it is telling you that ID parameter appears to be injectable. Soon you will get some result out here. Okay, so it has given some result. ID parameter is vulnerable. Do you want to get testing for other parameters? So I will say no at this stage. If you have other parameters, then you can also try out those. So I'm going to say no over here. And here you can see the backend databases, the name of the databases that is running. Right. Now, if you have done SQL query, if you have done SQL, then you guys already know the information schema is nothing. It is gonna be in every web page, everywhere, in every databases. This contains basically the metadata of the current databases, right? So this is not important for us. Which one is crucial? This one is crucial. This one is important, right? So यहाँ से मेरे को database का नाम मालूम चल गया कि photoblog नाम का एक database है वहाँ पर, right? Now since you know the name of the database, now you can give specific query. Now instead of doing ---- database, I can simply say -D and then give the name of the database photoblog and dump all the data from that database. Okay, or you can just say -D photoblog just to see what kind of data you get from the database. So if I hit enter, okay, we can see that not much information is coming out, not much metadata is coming out. So what we can do, we can simply say photoblog. Sorry. Instead of -D, we can say photoblog and say --dump. Okay, so it's gonna dump all data from that database. So you can see in photoblog, you do have hashes, you have users and you have password. Okay, and they are in hash format. If you guys remember hashes. Okay, do you want to store those hashes in a temporary file? So at this point of time, I'm gonna hit no. Do you want to try dictionary based attack? No, I don't want to try at this point of time. So I'm going to skip them out. So here are all the database. So one of those database contains the admin name and the password for the admin. Okay, in MD5 hash most probably. And here we have the other databases. See, this was the database that I was talking about. ID जो देंगे उस हिसाब से वो पेज को fetch कर रहा है, दिख रहा है? So अगर मैंने कहाँ पे SQL इंजेक्शन किया है, यहाँ पर है ना, तो अगर मैं यहाँ पे ID पे कहीं पे एरर जानबूझ के एरर डालता हूँ तो क्या होगा कि मेरे पास डेटाबेस का एक एरर आएगा. वही मेरे साथ हुआ. Got it, guys? Like this, we can dump the databases of a web page. Correct? Now we can try to perform this kind of an attack with other websites, right, in real web pages. So let's try to find out some of them. So if I do something like, say, in URL, if I want to find php !id equals to 1, and let's try to figure out some other databases where we can get some kind of things like this. Say, if I look at this web page, so it's a Bangladesh Olympic Association over here. So let's try this one out, if we can dump any databases out here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the same thing, but I'm going to use this web page over here. I'm just going to say hyphen dbs, and instead of the URL, I'm going to just paste this URL over here. And let's see what happens. Okay, so this basically says that ID might not be injectable, but don't worry, it sometimes say कभी कभी होता भी है तो भी वो बोलता है ऐसा. So let it finish first. मैं खुद ही एक बार चेक कर लेता हूँ, देखता हूँ क्या है. So if I give a quote, single quote over here, do I get an error? Anywhere? No, we don't get an error. जहां तक लग रहा है इसके इंजेक्शन नहीं है. I don't think we have a skill injection here because ID parameter is not injectable. Maybe something else, maybe somewhere else. How about, insights? Okay. पाकिस्तान न्यूज़पेपर साइट, उसका भी आईडी जैसा ही है यहाँ पर. If I give a single quote, you can clearly see that yes, this does have a SQL injection error, है ना. SQL injection हो सकता है यहाँ पर, है ना. अब देखो बैकएंड में क्या चल रहा है, MySQL चल रहा है. Alright. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna copy this one out and I'm gonna try to perform the same thing using SQL map over here. तो जैसे चल रहा है इसको चलने देते हैं. एक और हम लोग खोलते हैं यहाँ पर. So Python SQL map.py -u. I'm gonna put this over there. Okay, and then I'm gonna say -dbs and see what happens. So target SQL map base page comparison. If not dynamic, do you want to proceed? Okay, so the target URL content is not stable. Okay, continue. I'm going to continue this. You can see that it is telling that it might be injectable. Do you want to test for any other databases? No, I already know this is MySQL. I'm going to put no over here at the moment. And let's see what else we are getting. This is still going on. Okay, unable to connect. Let's see what we get from here, and let's see what we get from here as well. So ये चलता जा रहा है यहाँ पर. टाइम लगता है guys, ठीक है. तो it will take some time. Let's see what happens. So we can see that target URL appears to have 7 columns in the query. That means whatever the database is running in the backend, it has 7 columns out there. Okay, this is I am talking about the Daily Pakistan newspaper. Okay, so here we have the database, guys. Okay, so Daily Pack, whatever, Daily Pack, whatever. So here we have the database name, guys, right? So we can go ahead and dump the databases over here, right? And let's see what kind of information we may get from this. So capital D. I'm going to copy this one. समझ में आ रहा है सबको guys कि कैसे ये काम कर रहा है? Everyone? Am I audible, guys?
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to just do -dump here and see what we get. So we can see this is one of the database that we have got. Oh my god, लंबा चौड़ा database है भाई. Obviously actual web page का लंबा चौड़ा database ही होता है. It's not a lab, so you are gonna get a huge database. Most probably ये देखो. So we do get some kind of an admin member over here. right? And the password is salted. Unfortunately, it is salted, guys. Cracking it is going to be very, very difficult. A little bit difficult, I guess. Whatever, you get the idea. You get the idea. It is storing some kind of images. बहुत जगह पे images store करके रखा है. दुनिया भर का images store करके रखा है. I don't know what kind of images these are. We can dump these databases in a separate file and then view the images. I don't know what kind of images these are. So you get the idea, right? So there it is. And some TXT file as well. Some articles, I guess. Okay, what about this one? Okay, do you want to reduce the number of requests? Yes, I want to reduce the number of requests. So it seems that this one is not that much vulnerable. Just a moment, guys. Okay, so that is what you can do with SQL map. यहाँ तक clear हुआ है, guys? Is it clear? तुम लोगों का task रहेगा to find out another such web page where you can perform this kind of SQL map. Okay, don't do anything with the database. Just try to perform them. Okay, just dump the database and leave it. ठीक है, तो आज के लिए guys इतना ही. ठीक है, next class में we will move on with other attacks as well. Okay, we will also see SQL injection a little bit more and then we will move on to the other attacks. All right, यहाँ तक clear है सबको?
Yes,
Clear
sir.
for everyone?
Yes, sir, clear.
ठीक है, चलो guys, bye bye. That will be all for today. হ্যাঁ বল।
So wait for pen tester টা না আমাকে VMware IP টা দেখাচ্ছে না।
তোকে যেটা করতে হবে, what you have to do, IF config দিয়ে দেখেছিস তো?
হ্যাঁ।
ওকে, তাহলে একটা কাজ করতে পারিস, if you are using VMware over here, আমি বলছি করতে হবে, you go to you go to edit and you will find virtual network editor over here. Okay, you go to virtual network editor. ঠিক আছে, সেখান থেকে যাবি change settings এ, click on yes and here you will see auto bridging. এখানে দেখতে পাবি ব্রিজ টু অটোমেটিক, এখানে অটোমেটিকে ক্লিক করার পরে এখানে দেখতে পাবি তোর রিয়েলটেক বা মাইক্রোসফট বা ইন্টেলের এরকম লেখা থাকবে, ইন্টেল বা রিয়েলটেক। ঠিক আছে, সেটাকে চুজ করে নিবি, চুজ করে নিয়ে ক্লিক অন অ্যাপ্লাই, ক্লিক অন ওকে, রিস্টার্ট দ্য মেশিন। ঠিক আছে, করে দেখ এটা। ঠিক আছে।